Welcome to But Enough About Me, a podcast about other people. My name is Tyler Andrews. I'm a Nashville-based photographer, husband, and father. I'm trying to collect the stories of everyone around me, whether we're best friends or total strangers. I want to know what made you the person you are today. Welcome back to the show, guys. I'm so glad to be back here. It has been an insane 2 weeks, especially this last week. Never thought I'd go viral, and certainly not for what ended up doing it, but I'll talk about that later. In the meantime, let's get to something fun and important. My story today comes from a very good friend, someone I respect immensely. He's known for a lot of things. He's a musician, he's an actor, he's a hunter, he's a TV show host, he's in realty, and a dozen other things. The thing he will be known for more than anything else is his beautiful wife Yvette, his 3 kids, and his incredible philanthropic work. Now, he doesn't want me talking about this stuff, but too bad, Andy. He has an online show called So You Think You Can Hunt. You can see it at soyouthinkyoucanhunt.com. And on that show, my guest hunts animals and then processes the meat and donates it to local food banks and charities. He has personally fed thousands and thousands of families, including mine. It is a privilege and an honor to introduce you to my very good friend, Andrew Meldrum. Yeah. Well, the primary story is you. You're already the expert on that.
Oh boy.
In theory.
I'm learning about me.
Yeah.
It is a process to learn. And I look within all the time. I've got it bad. I really do. I want to understand why I do things, why I react, why I respond.
Mm-hmm.
And too much Andy is too much Andy. Really, that's for truth. I think that applies to anyone that's artistic. You got to know when to stand back and work more like a pitcher and catcher. Give and take, give and take, give and take, and you'll get better results, I believe.
Tell me about, in general, we're going to talk about your life story.
Okay.
So, when were you born?
1964, January 12. I was born and raised at the end of a gravel road.
Yeah?
Yep, Fitzpatrick Road, 9269 Fitzpatrick Road.
Where at?
Route 1, Alpena, Michigan.
Michigan.
Way up top. And let me tell you, I got 6 brothers and sisters and mom and dad. I used to tell people I had a Walt Disney, Walton's kind of childhood. And not till I was older and I look back, I was lying.
Really?
Oh gosh, yeah. I had a horrible childhood. And as an adult, to see it through adult eyes and say, oh my God, they did that?
Yeah.
It's, so I go to painstaking measures, best I can, to be a good, understanding, kind, soft as smoke, but a firm foundation with my children.
Mm-hmm.
They love their dad deeply, but they know their dad, all of which I did not. There was no conversation. They did some ridiculous things that left scars.
Where were you in the family line? You said you had 6 siblings.
Yes, I had an older sister.
Uh-huh.
Then there was 4 boys, me being the youngest.
Okay.
Then a younger sister.
Okay.
And
how much older is your oldest sister?
7 years, 8 years older than me.
So your folks were having kids, one right after the other.
Yeah, every couple of years they're dropping a kid. I think the longest they went was between myself and my younger sister, 3 years.
Yeah.
I was so bitter at my siblings and my parents. And I wanted to write a book called Family, the Other F Word. I really did. And the publicist was like, man, that's pretty harsh, Andy, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
But then I've learned. I'm 55 now, but I've learned the last 2 or 3 years, I owe my parents a great debt of gratitude. I just have to change my mind. They showed me what not to do.
Yeah.
Now, some would say if they were 0, I went all the way to 10.
Right.
I'm hoping my kids will maybe cut it back to 8 or 7. They can stay at 10. They can be like their dad. I'm okay with that, man. But yeah, childhood wasn't the best.
What did your dad do for a living?
My dad worked in a factory that made wood and wallboard and chipboard.
Okay.
He worked hard. He was dedicated. He maybe made $20,000 a year at the peak, and he worked when no one else wanted to work. He took every shift. We have a big blizzard. He walked to work 16, 18 miles, stay all week. Yeah. He was dedicated. And not until, you've heard this so many times, not until he was on his exit, did he tell me that everything he thought was really important wasn't nearly as important as time.
Mm.
And he never got me. My mom, my siblings never understood Andy. And it's not a pity party. I was a creative. And I was unfiltered. My dad fought in Korea. Really bad stuff. But I'd be the one around the dinner table say, Dad, what is it like to kill a man? Oh. And everyone would be like, no, not now, Andy. And he'd say it was very unpleasant. He always called me Charlie. So it was like, it was very unpleasant, Charlie. And I said, no, with a bayonet. Oh, man, and my sister's eyes would roll back in her head. And my mom would be like, oh, my God, someone shot him up. And they're all kicking me under the table. And I thought I had to speak up louder. So I'd say, with the bayonet. And he'd look at me and say, that was very unpleasant, Charlie. And everyone was pretty uncomfortable by then. And I was hungry, so I'd go back to eating. But I always pressed him to know him. And to know my dad, you had to take a crowbar and you had to pry it out of him.
Yeah.
I'm not like that. I know my father, or I knew him when he was alive, probably better than anyone in my family. And he didn't get me until the last couple of years. Then he actually said, man, I really get you now. So there was some validation, and they always thought I was real showy. I was an entertainer. I mean, I was buying buses to tour when I was 16 years old. I had agents all over the state and out of the state. Yeah. So at 16 and 17, getting good grades in school, I was jumping in that bus with my band, Back Talk, and going down to play the prom for Grand Valley for Michigan State, Western Michigan. I'd be rolling down there. Guitar player was 2 years younger than myself. I was getting these gigs, getting paid a lot of money.
Yeah. Especially for a kid.
Yeah. And no help, no insight from parents, family. I was learning it as I go, making promo packs and videotaping and getting sound of the band so we can get better jobs. And we did.
Before you got there.
Yeah.
Tell me about elementary school, middle school. That's a lot of growing up that happens in there.
Oh, yeah. Elementary school. Well, you see, I had chores before school started. So milking cows, just 2 of them by hand. That's where I learned how to sing. Feeding the chickens, feeding the pigs. And then we'd get on a bus and go about 4.5 miles to school. One time I went to school and I did chores and I forgot to put a shirt on. Yep. I had this little windbreaker jacket. I went there, took off my jacket, and then I stood with no shirt. We only had one car, so my uncle had to run me a shirt. It was pretty hokey back then. There were no vacations because no matter how much people love you and your family, they don't love you enough to come over and milk cows in the morning and milk cows at night. So any vacation we took was between probably 8 in the morning and 6 at night, which is all right. That was my elementary school. Middle school, I played football, blew out my knee, and I had to have surgery. This is back where it took them 6 hours.
How'd that happen?
I was a running back, and
Okay.
I went to a very big school. I had 720 kids in my graduating class. Actually, 724.
That's a very big school.
Yeah, they would bus from almost 30 miles away. to get the
Wow.
kids there. And we ran Michigan offense, the veer option.
Okay.
Yeah, they gave me the ball. I was running through, and I was breaking away, and someone hit me on the side of the leg, and my leg just went out. It was okay. I got up. Coach came out, rubbed the wrong knee, and said, "You okay?" I said, "Yeah, I think I'm all right." Stood up, walked off the field. I played both ways on defense too, and they said, "You ready to get back in?" I said, "Sure." They said, "Well, stretch out." So I did like the splits. My right leg from the knee down fell flat on the ground, and my thigh met it way down, halfway down my calf.
Mm.
And I was just like dangling there. And Dr. Cook, I hear Dr. Cook was in the stands, and he saw me kind of balancing on this stump in a leg that's just wrong. He jumped over the fence. He grabbed me under my armpits and laid back and got me on the ground. Game's still going. Head
Yep.
coach didn't know. Ambulance pulled up. I went to the hospital, and I was in surgery apparently by halftime for 6 hours. They cut me on my pads, I guess, and they said they were just going to look at my knee. And they lied, and they put me to sleep. I woke up, and I had a cast from my crotch to my ankle.
Wow.
And I never forget, I woke up real quick because I hadn't prepared for surgery. You know, I'd eaten lunch and drank water and stuff. I woke up really fast and out of control. And I'd never forget. I said, "Okay, I'm ready. I can go now." Thinking I was still on the sidelines to play ball. Coach Woodley was there. He didn't know I'd left in an ambulance. Yeah, and he broke down. I hear he got pretty upset seeing me that committed. And after that, I came out. I was actually running faster. Learned how to run correctly. I think it was like a 4.2, 4.3, 40. I was
Okay.
about 180, 190 pounds. Bit of a bout to bring down, and the doctors wouldn't let me play anymore. They said, "You can't play." Oh, and there's a story.
Okay.
They said, "You can punt." Let me tell you, they were just so unaware. You don't put the starting fullback and defensive end in and say, "You can be the punter." But I said, "Great." So I suited up, and I was out there. My dad never came to a practice. My dad didn't come to the game I injured in. My mom didn't. So I'm out there, and the coaches were getting frustrated with the defense. And they said, "Meldrum, will you come in here and play linebacker going against the first offense and show them what this is about?" And I'm like, "Sure." And I ran in there, and I was a beast, and I just wrecked people. And we took a water break, and I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turn around, there's my dad. He says, "You're done, Charlie. That's it." And we walked together to the locker room, and I got undressed, took a shower, and that was it. He must have known. He played football before the war, and you don't take a running back and a defensive end so you can punt and think for a chance. They're not going to get in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and "You're done." And so I was done. And so I played music since I was in 6th grade. So I picked up the guitar. I'm not going to lie. Girls liked the guys that played guitar. And I thought, I want to be liked by the girls.
Some things haven't changed.
Yeah, dude. And so that, there's a first and a last day for everything.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
Yeah.
Just change your platform. So I started playing music. Started writing, singing. I got in a band. They asked me to come and play. I'd never played electric guitar before. They handed me this Kramer that just couldn't stay in tune. And it was plugged into an amp, and we played, and I sang, and they're like, "Oh my God, this guy can sing." He had a mullet. Poof, got to get him. So we started a band, and I just didn't know better. That's the key to, if someone would say I have success,
Yeah.
I didn't know. I couldn't do anything. I didn't know better. And so we practiced for 2 weeks. I said, "Hey, let's go play at the Holiday Inn." And they looked at me. We're up in this top apartment of this house, attic. Not a garage band, man. We're more sophisticated. We're an attic band.
Yeah.
And they're like, "We can't do that." What was I doing 2 weeks later? Holiday Inn.
Absolutely.
Holiday Inn playing. And they closed down the bar area, and all the kids from high school came. Big crowd. They paid a couple bucks to get in. That was the start of Back Talk. My sister Maureen was a graphic designer, and we had logos and we had flyers. And I didn't know better. No one was there to guide me.
Yeah.
I called Dean Rush and trying to think, L'Oreal Ross,
Okay.
Good Music Agency, all these agents. They said, well, we need a picture of you. Great. I sent them a photo and with a bio where we've played. And then we did a demo from the board and I sent it to them. Then we had the video back when the cameras were the size of a truck. And I got someone to videotape us and they started getting us jobs.
That's
I was
awesome.
17 years old, making $3,000 for playing 2 shows, splitting it 4 ways. So I bought a bus. And the guy said, Andy, this might go from here to the train tracks over there, or it might run in 3 years.
Yeah.
I bought it for $800, and 3 years later, we still had it.
That's awesome.
And we were playing everywhere.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, let's make a record. And the guys were, huh? We can do that? I was like, yeah. So we went, recorded a record, and had that. Recorded another record. Like it'd be an EP today.
Okay, so
Isn't that funny?
So you said you were 17 when the band formed.
16, 17.
So that's 80, 81?
Yep, 80.
Okay. Did you, I assume you graduated high school at some point?
82.
82. Okay, so you're still in the middle of high school doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
And you said getting good grades.
Great grades. Oh, that was a must.
Yeah.
That was my job. And that's what my kids now know. That's your job. So I think I had a 3.3 average. You had to get good grades. Never failed a class. And
tell me about your mom.
You really want to know about my mom?
I do. I want to know about your mom.
My mom died 2.5 years ago. And to this date, I haven't shed a tear. My mom was she was a horrible mother. And I didn't know that until I grew up and I became a parent. And I look at my parents and I was like, God, they suck out loud. Actually, right now, I actually go to see a therapist because I'm walking through and I'm stuck with my parents. And my dad, we kind of came together the last year he was alive. He understood. He understood me. My mom was a horrible mother. And so absent, willing to throw me under the bus, shaming. I've got just few hot buttons, and one is when I hear someone shaming someone, a parent to a kid, a coach to an athlete, teacher to a student. You don't shame. My mom hung me out to dry. I was a fall guy for the whole family.
How so?
How so? I'll tell you. I'll give you a couple examples. My parents, I'd have my tonsils and adenoids out. But instead of telling me that, they said I was going to an ice cream party. Yes. They took me to the hospital.
How old are you?
6.
Okay.
Maybe 5.
Yeah.
Took me to the hospital. Signed me in. This is back where the nurses and doctors all wore masks the whole time they were there. They put me in a wheelchair and I was confused. They wheeled me back, admitted me in the hospital. My parents left. They gave me the IV. They did all this stuff. They lied to me, put me under, took out my adenoids and tonsils. My parents didn't come back to the next day, like 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, to pick me up. I struggle today with people being dishonest to me. I'm not a perfect man, but I struggle. They lied. They were willing to. Later in life, someone shot an arrow through my uncle's garage, and no one would admit to doing it. I was too young to pull back a bow. I didn't do it. But my mom sat there and she said, hey, I'll give you Uncle Ken will give you $5 if you say you did it. And I said, but I didn't do it. I'll never forget that conversation. Maybe I was 8, 10. I said, but I didn't do it. And she says, I need you to tell your dad that you did it. I said, okay. And I went in there. I said, Dad, I shot the hole through Uncle Ken's garage. He jumped up. I ran away, fell down 14 steps to the basement. I never did it. But it was so easy for her to get me to take the blame for so much. And even in her late years, she said, I was always there to make sure your dad wasn't too rough. No, she wasn't. No, I was petrified of my dad. He never touched me unless it was with a belt. He did tell me once that he loved me. It was August 8, 2009. Once. Love you, Charlie. Boom. One time. My dad never heard me play the saxophone. My mom, my dad, they only heard me play music one time. That's it. So I don't get it. I'll never get it. The AP came and talked to my parents because I was a bit of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom, and they just could not say, we love this child, we're proud of him, da da da. She told them that I wet the bed till I was 8 years old. And just, you couldn't, we expect this out of him. You couldn't pry validation, acceptance out of my parents. And that, see, when that happens to kids,
Yeah.
even I was probably 20 years old then. You don't make sense of it until you're older. Then you look back. He dropped me off. I was there for almost 2 days in the hospital. If my kids have to have an IV put in, I would rather they put the IV in me.
Sure.
And I hold them and I give them my comfort with affirmations and words and I stay in the hospital until they walk out. We walk in together. We walk out together. I didn't have that. And it's their loss, I think, ultimately. I could be wrong.
I don't think you are.
But what I've learned as an adult, to all you parents out there, validation. Really, truly love. I don't care what your kid does. Validate, and if they do bad things because they're knuckleheads, they're not bad. What they did was a poor decision. And you coach and you're counselor to them for life. All the time, working on my own stuff. And I could ignore it and just go on and say, pull up your big girl panties and it's no big deal. But it's there. And there's things, I believe, we think that we bury dead. And they come to life like the old horror movies. They just come out of the ground. You think they're dead. But they're not, because there has been no resolution. And when you have parents like I had, and you asked about my mom.
Yeah.
She died. I went up and saw her right before she died, held her hand. And she had tears coming out of her eyes. I believe they were tears of regret. And I had nothing. My sisters were upset. I had nothing. And I'm like, okay. It came down, she died. We went back up for the funeral, which is too long of a story to tell. I had nothing. And so I'm surprised. And I had a professional say, you can grieve not for the loss of your mother, but for the loss of what could have been. And that is very sound advice. Because you always believe it. I thought, man, what was I, 50 years old, 52? Believe it or not, I'm an eternal optimist.
Mm-hmm.
There's always that chance that she's going to come clean and say, man, I kind of suck. Can you forgive me? But when they die, that can't happen. Therefore, there's no resolution. There's no validation. And you pick any other shun you want. It's not there. Redemption. And so you have to walk through it. and grieve what could have been, then make sure you're a better parent.
Man. Okay. Well, I asked and you
Yes, you
answered.
did.
Thank you.
Podcast.
Um,
Woo-hoo.
okay. So you said you put out 2 albums, first couple albums.
Yep.
What were they called? Do you remember?
No, I can't remember. I loved it.
Yeah.
I'm the straightest guy in music. I can say here. I've never done a drug in my life. I do like a mixed drink to 10, just to where I think I could fly. But I've never done an illegal drug ever. And I was knee deep in them
Yeah.
in the music industry. I've never and never would. You never know when you're going to be needed. So I kind of owed it to myself to be on the ready.
Yeah.
Plus, I was always taking care of everyone. I was a front guy. I was booked the band. I took care of all the logistics and just don't believe in drugs. I see what they do to people, and it's like, no, there's no place in my life for that. And so I've always been really straight. My drug are women.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And I learned I had to teach that to my kids.
Mm.
You wanted me to be vulnerable and right out there. Let me tell you, I didn't do drugs. And my oldest is an actor, performer, and incredible at it. He started smoking weed all by himself. It was because after you entertain, when you come off the stage, you have to come down from that high. That's why most musicians know all the Andy Griffith Show episodes are watching late night TV. A lot of them do drugs. A lot of them drink too much. And I didn't know till I was an adult. He said, well, Dad, how do you come down? How did you do this and that? Well, I couldn't tell my son. It was women.
Yeah.
And I think I told him to do sit-ups and push-ups. That's BS. God, what a cornball thing. But I had nothing.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Tyler, I had nothing. But in my head, I was like, okay. It was sex and lots of it.
Yeah.
And you don't tell your son that. But here I am on a podcast telling you that's the truth.
Yeah.
And I told you, and I'm going to be very vulnerable and open with it. And music was very good to me. I haven't played in Maine, Hawaii, Alaska, or Louisiana. That's it.
Wow.
I've played with a lot of great musicians, entertainers, and it was really good to me. It taught me things. But being a dad is my favorite word. I take being a dad, the privilege, serious, and I owe it to my parents. I do. They taught me when not to be. I say I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I love them deeply. I hold them when they're crushed, and when I can't fix it, I don't say anything. I just hold them. And my children, they know their dad. I have probably 7 albums that as they got older, I introduced them to my music because they knew me as dad.
Right.
And jaws were dropping. That's you. I said, yeah. Then they got each one of them. I'd give them a whole Dropbox. And they're like, why'd you write this? What were you thinking? And each one of them said, boy, I know you so much better.
Mm.
And I'm like, wow. Let me tell you one thing I did in music that it's funny, but it's typical of me being a knucklehead.
Okay.
When I toured and played around, I'd go to American Fitness. It was
Still as back talk?
Oh, no. This was as Andy Meldrum or Drew and the Crew or whatever I had a name for that gig.
Okay.
And I went to the gym. I worked out every day. I got up early. I go to the gym. Then I'd have lunch, maybe ride a bike, take a nap, get up, play a show. I went to the gym and they had those stand-up tanning booths.
Mm-hmm.
So I went in it. just butt naked, Turned it to 4, nothing. So I turned it to 4, nothing. I turned it to 4, nothing. I said, screw this, man. I'm not getting tan. This isn't working. And I went home, had lunch, laid down from my nap. And when I woke up, I had a sunburn like you just couldn't imagine. I was toast. The guys had to come in and put on my underwear and get me dressed. And they went to a drugstore and got, was it cold cream? Smeared it all over me. Yeah. The boys on fire. Little Andy lit the frig up. And I had a fever. You know the fever you get when you get a sunburn?
Oh, yeah.
Hot and cold, and I was dying. I'd play this concert. Okay, this is back in the days, kids, where they didn't have LED lights.
Mm-hmm.
So
Hot lights,
they
yeah.
lubed me up, got my pants on, and I walked out there. They introduced me. I kind of walked, kind of like I had an anvil in my butt. I get out to the microphone, and they turned on the 500-watt powers and the spotlights, which are, I think, 1,000 watts, hit me. And guitar player, I could hear him. He said, Andy, you're crying. And I was like, yeah. I had tears coming down. You could have fried an egg on my forehead, hots and colds. I was dying. And the other time he said the same thing, they introduced me. I ran out to the microphone. I was in Saginaw, Michigan. And apparently they didn't have the grounds correctly. And a blue arc went from the microphone to my face and from the microphone stand to my guitar. And lit me up. I fell down like I was having an epileptic seizure, hit the ground like a sack of potatoes. They picked me up, got me off stage. And I didn't black out, but I got electrocuted.
Yeah.
I shook it off. They introduced me again. And the electrician said, oh, we didn't have the grounds correct. And I'm like, yeah. I went out there.
No kidding.
Yeah. And the guitar player was still saying, Andy, dude, that was so cool. It was a blue arc that went to your face and a blue arc that went to your hand. And they had my saxophones on a stand. I started to sing. I reached over, grabbed a saxophone. I didn't realize I couldn't feel my mouth. And I stuck the mouthpiece almost in my ear. And when I put the mouthpiece in my mouth, I couldn't feel my face. And so I put it back up because I couldn't play horn.
Right.
It's just great memories.
Yeah.
I loved it. And it was good to me. And I became a dad and I...
Wait. You're jumping ahead.
Yeah, I am.
Back up.
Okay.
I know you played with and for some pretty big names.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a couple of those and how they happened.
Oh. One I just told the other day, it kind of dawned on me. When I was with Back Talk, kid in high school, we got to warm up Black Sabbath. Thank you for laughing.
Wait a minute.
What the frig? So we go up, we're in Torch Lake in Michigan.
Okay.
I'm 16, the bass player is 17, the guitar player and the drummer are 15. And Dean Rush Agency gets us this gig, and we're going to warm up Black Sabbath. Hey, I'm a James Taylor, America kind of fan, middle of the road, gonna find my baby, gonna hold her tight.
Yeah.
That's me.
Yeah.
I didn't know what Black Sabbath was. I'm like, cool, paid good. So we get there, and it's a biker bar, maybe I don't know, 1,200 seater, pretty big, but it was pretty rough.
Yeah.
We walked in just with our guitars. They had all the amps and the drums and everything carted in. We get there, and it's a pretty rough crowd, and my guys are scared. And they should have been. And but they always looked handy, and I said, okay. And the guitar player, Wimpy, what are we going to do? And my first response is, we're going to die. But we get up on stage. They introduce us. We're kids. And I looked at the guys. I said, this is what we're going to do. We had a Beatles medley, about 8 songs. We had about 4 Monkey tunes put together and an old Stones tune. I said, we're going to play. We're not going to talk. We're going to go boom to boom to boom to boom. And today that would be called Staying in Your Lane.
Yeah.
We were kids, and they loved us.
Nice.
Because now I look back, these are rough and tough bikers looking at the next generation saying, they're playing the Beatles. They went to the Monkees. they stoned us with just, this could be the last time, maybe less. And we kept it simple in the pocket. And when we were done, we took a bow and they escorted us out.
Yeah.
And the next thing I heard was dun 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 dun. And I was like, oh man, I hate that. That's no good. Yeah, that's not afternoon delight. Yeah, what a kid, huh?
That's fantastic. So you toured all over at a young age. I mean, you
Yeah.
just got out.
And my parents did. They were always afraid I was going to do drugs or something. And here I was as straight as cat. I've done a lot of things. Been fortunate. Whenever I did something, and this I learned later, it was just, I'd call my dad and say, hey, Dad, I'm playing tonight and Def Leppard. I'm playing tonight with the Cashes. I'm playing tonight. I'm on the Opry. And he couldn't live that with me. Instead, he would say, well, don't tell your brothers. It sounds really showy. Don't tell your sisters. Don't tell anyone else. And so I didn't. And when I did, now that I'm an adult, I know they just shamed me for success. I played with a lot of people, Johnny Tullitz and Lou Christie, the Shirelles. Soldier boy, you're my little soldier boy. And whenever I'd say, Dad, I just played with, and they say, will you still love me tomorrow? He's like, great. Well, just, okay, great. Just don't. And I didn't get to live what I did. It wasn't showy. I wanted not just a validation. I wanted him to see everything I was seeing. I wanted him to see. I came to Nashville, I played the gospel show in the Opry, and I went to Harlan Howard's birthday party, and Roger Miller came out. My dad's favorites. Just did it, dang, dang. And he played Dang Me. And like a fool, I was in my head, I was like, oh God, I wish my dad was here. I wish my uncles. I wish everyone around a campfire that I'd sing to at hunting season. But they didn't care. They didn't want to. They were unable to dream as big as me. Funny thing, my dad got me an interview at the factory he worked at. I'm an entertainer. He got me an interview. He wanted me to work at the factory. I went in there and they say, you're Bob's son. I said, yeah. They say, aren't you that musician guy who's just, I said, yeah. You want to work here? And I said, hell no. Oh, he got so mad at me. It was a union job and it was stability.
Right.
And it was just, isn't that funny?
Yeah.
I owe him a great debt of gratitude. Yeah. And so that was my childhood. Ask me something else.
All right. So how long did you stay in music? When did it stop being your 9 to 5?
24 years ago, right before I had landed.
Okay.
And what people don't know is I had severe panic attacks. This is good to know. I had panic attacks for 26 years. And when I say panic attacks, I spent 3 months in a basement. Not 3 days, not 3 hours, not 3 weeks. 3 months in a basement. And this is back in probably 84, 85, 86-ish. Well, it was 26 years. But they didn't know about panic thing. And so I went to my doctor because my heart would race, my tongue would swell up. I felt like I was going to throw up or have diarrhea. I mean, I was tore up, and here I'm an entertainer.
Yeah.
Great. When I was on stage, cool as a cucumber, calm, my back relaxed. You take me off in about 20 minutes. Couldn't talk to you, couldn't talk to anyone, had to get away, couldn't ride with people. I was dying. So I was 3 weeks in the basement. And the first doctor I went to, my doctor then said, you need to go to a psychiatrist. I said, okay. This is no joke. He was in Grand Rapids, Michigan. He was on the 8th floor. His name was Dr. Stephen King. And we will pause for a break. Dr. Stephen King.
Dr. Stephen King.
You ever see the movie What About Bob?
Of course.
Right. I was Bob. Who the frick, frack, and frickety frack puts an anxiety doctor on the 8th freaking floor of anything? I missed, I'm not joking, 5 to 10 appointments. I couldn't get on the elevator, couldn't go up the steps, couldn't get in the parking lot, couldn't get in the building. I was dying. I couldn't get up there. And one day, somehow, I mustered the energy. I got up there, walked into the office, walked into his room, and he never looked at me. He said, "You're having panic attacks." I said, "That's what I'm being told." He didn't ask me any questions. He didn't ask me what I did. He prescribed Xanax, said, "Take them as you need them." And I'm like, cool. I was taking 18 Xanax, the 0.05 milligrams, 18 a day. Drinking a couple Jack and Coke, 18 a day. Someone small, 125, 130 pounds, you take 3 of those and 2 Jack and Cokes, and there's a good chance you're not going to wake up and you will be dead.
Yeah.
I was taking 18 a day, still having panic attacks in my sleep, biting my tongue. I went from 190 pounds down to 162 pounds. I had a 31-inch waist. I was dying, but you put me in a studio, put me behind a guitar and a saxophone, I was fine. I went to therapists to try to figure it out. They just didn't know about panic. And you love your dad, you hate your mom, all that stuff, the ink blots, nothing would stick. And they'd say, well, and people always say, what triggers it? And the truth is, best I've ever heard, it comes over you as quick as a blush. Mm-hmm. It's a chemical fight or flight. Mm-hmm. The only problem is nothing's chasing you. And it will screw with you. Yeah. And it will mess with your life. And so after about 10 months of taking 18 a day, the doctor said, you can't have any more of these. And they wouldn't fill the prescription. Cold turkey. Again, like I said, I've never taken drugs. Night and day, I sat up shaking. Had a friend come over just to hold my hand. Couldn't talk on the phone. I'd have a panic attack. That almost killed me. And later on, I found out it pretty much jacked up my adrenal glands.
Yeah. So, how did you meet Yvette?
Okay. For truth. Through all the panic attacks, I went back to my hometown, and this guy asked me to buy this nightclub. It's called Slips.
Okay.
It was in an old town of Alpena, which were right on the Thunder Bay and Lake Huron. Okay. All gas lamps, really nice. And so I bought half of this nightclub. And I went, the creative in me, and I sponsored all the softball teams in the city. Really, all of them. I was sponsoring the Holiday Inn. Again, the Holiday Inn and the Thunder Bay Bowling. I was sponsoring them all and buying them all shirts and hats and stuff. Yeah. With the logos of the companies that they were playing for. I didn't know a lot about marketing. I just wanted to love people and be loved. So I did that. And then I sent a camera out to the games and would film the game, come back, play it on the big screens in the nightclub. They'd all come and eat burgers and drink beer. That's pretty smart, huh? Yeah. I went to this one game, and I got on the dugout where the camera guy was at. I looked through the lens, and I inappropriately zoomed in on this girl in tight jeans and a white T-shirt. That's where it started. And I didn't know she was engaged to marry the pitcher on the other team that I sponsored. And he's pitching. And I'm zooming in like for a long time. This is back before you had editing stuff. So we went back to the club and we're playing on this. Like we had multiple big screens. And they're all eating. And her fiance didn't even realize that, man, I was zoomed in on her butt. I'm not lying. And her boobs. And he's eating burgers and stuff. So I slipped her a note. And I said, let's have a rendezvous. I misspelled rendezvous to the point, this is before spell check and anything. We had known nothing. Yeah. And she looked at me and she's like, eh. And I went to the rendezvous point. She never showed up. Saw her again. And I said, I want to meet you. And she says, I'm going to marry the pitcher. And I said, yeah, right. And we met behind a church. And she went home that night and told her mom, I met the guy that I'm going to marry. Wow. She says, yeah, it's Norman. You've been dating him for like 6 years. She says, no. What is he? Who is he? He's the guy. I was on the front page of our hometown newspaper like 16 weeks in a row doing philanthropic things. It's this musician guy, the guy in the paper. And I'm like, oh, I would love to have been there for that.
Yeah, no
You're going to
kidding.
marry a musician.
Yeah.
She's an academic All-American, very smart.
Yeah.
And yeah, she picked me. Then she kind of stalked me. I mean, see, she's not here. Man, she want a piece of this wonderland. And, oh God, she can't listen to this. But yeah, and so she came down to Nashville, Franklin actually, and she went to undergrad at Middle Tennessee State University after she already had 4 years of community college. And then she went to law school. She's my sugar mama. I'm very proud of her.
So this was this early 90s?
94 is when we got married.
Okay.
Her fiance
Yeah.
asked me if I would sing at their wedding.
Aww.
It was sweet. I sang at the wedding, all right. It wasn't meant to be.
Right.
She's beautiful. And she was a heartthrob for lots of people. A lot of men were disappointed.
It's just the way
When
it
the
is.
guy with the big iron on his hip, when I showed up in town, yeah. I feel bad for him, but not really.
Yeah, no.
She's incredible. Gave me great babies. She's tolerated me. I'm her ticket to heaven. If there is a heaven, she'll show up and they'll go to question and she'll say, I married Andy Meldrum. That's it right here. We got a suite for you. And it's hard to be married to me.
Yeah.
It's hard to be married to a creative that what I wanted to tell you,
Yeah.
I didn't have a whole lot prepared. But people that know me and know what I do, a lot of them see the 40,000-foot flyover of the fluff and the good. A lot of them don't know I had panic attacks forever. Right. A lot of them, they don't know that there was a day in the panic attacks, I was holding my oldest son in a pull-up in Nolensville. They were repossessing my car. They turned off the gas, the water, the electric, all at the same time.
Okay, so let's talk about that.
That's a holy F moment for any person out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did that happen? I mean, Yvette went to MTSU, and then she went to law school, and then presumably got married after that?
Nope. Got married in 95. She didn't graduate, I think, until 2003.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you guys were together all the way through her school.
Oh, yeah. It's how it got to that point is panic attacks got so bad. I couldn't function. It wasn't for a lack of trying. I couldn't function. What happens with panic is you go to the grocery store and you have a major panic attack. So what do? You stop going to the grocery store. Pretty soon it got to the point where I was doing my food shopping out of a 7-Eleven. They got to a point before I was stuck in the basement. I couldn't go to the end of my driveway to get the mail. And there's nothing anyone could do for me.
Right.
I'd read every book. My dad was like, fight it, fight it, fight it. Let me tell you, you can't fight this.
Yeah.
And I equate it to women that are about to have a baby. You can be very intelligent. You can read every book on postpartum depression.
Yeah.
But when you're knee deep in it.
Yeah.
You can be the smart, you can understand all the technical, but when it's happening, baby, hang on. Just know that there's a first and a last moment. That was tough, my friend. And I hung on. And people say, what happened? My dad died. I had no daddy issues that I knew of. And I'd gone up. My dad wanted my mother to have a single level house. So I went up 800 miles I drive because I didn't fly. I'm not afraid of dying in a plane. I just don't like to be restricted to where I can't get out and breathe and calm myself down. So I go up there 4 times in 3 months, fix up their house, find another house with my mom. And it wasn't all Andy. My mom was 80 years old. We're driving around looking at houses. All my brothers and sisters, they said they had tried. And we went by this house over by my high school. And she said, "Oh, that used to be for sale. I wish I would have bought it, but I didn't." They thought they had to sell their house first before they could buy a house.
Mm.
That's not the case. And so we went by it, and it was like 7 or 8 o'clock at night, and she was going to settle on a house she really didn't want. And the realtor, God, stepped in and said, "Hey, let me show you more house." Went back over there. She pulled in that driveway. There's no sign. It was an estate sale. The price got so low, they just stopped. We walked in, and Mom said, "This is the house I want."
Wow.
And the lady said, "Great." My mom said, "What do I do?" Pulled out her checkbook. $74,500 for a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, fenced-in backyard. Small little town.
Yeah.
I went and got Dad, showed him the house. He approved. I did it. Fixed up their house, put it on the market. And 6 days before it sold, or after it sold and they closed on that, my dad died. I knew he was on the exit. And let me tell you another thing about that. My dad was the dad who said, he started to get to know me better.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "When I'm dead, all you guys just take whatever you want of mine, my stuff." And I said, "No, Dad." He hated that I would go deep quickly. But as he got older and he couldn't get away from me, he had
Right.
no choice.
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, "Dad, we don't want your stuff. We don't need your stuff. If it's just stuff, it's stuff. But if you give it to me and tell me the story behind it, it's not stuff. It has value." And he heeded those words. And he went, next time I was home, right before he died, about a week or so, he took me to the bedroom.
Mm.
He gave me the rifle. He gave me his muzzleloader and told me the stories. He gave me this longbow that was made out of lemon wood. Where he told me the stories. It all had value. And I said, "Do this with all my siblings." And he did. That is making an exit. And so my dad, who was so frugal, but he was a man's man. A few
Mm-hmm.
things he did right. He did that. He got to know me. I'm very philanthropic. So he started taking money with his brothers to the VFW and buying them food. And he caught the bug. He was like, "I get it. I know why I raise chickens, all that stuff." This could be a long podcast. But he really got it. And he told me that. And then when he died,
Mm-hmm.
he had saved $75,000 for my mom. They made $1,800 a month. This is retirement. Houses paid for, vehicles paid for. 75 grand for her, 75,000 in his bank account. And he had a $300,000 whole life policy no one knew about from the credit union.
Wow.
He put a bow on everything. And it just left me like, oh my God. My mother, the last 6 months of her life, she stayed in the Hilton of Hilton, $6,000 a month, long-term care facility, had her own apartment. She died. And 3 months after my mother died, I got a check from my dad, who had died 6 years earlier, for $33,000.
Mm.
And each one of my siblings got the same amount.
Wow.
And it came from my dad, even though it was the estate of.
Right.
And we do well.
Yeah.
The Meldrums, my wife and my family here. I carried that around for weeks in my pocket because my dad was reduced to he has no idea. He gave me more money than he made in a year. And he put a bow on life and he took care of my mom.
Mm.
So as much as my parents, I get angry at him, what a man.
Right.
A true man amongst boys.
Mm.
And I could go on talking about Dad. Now, as a father, tender, connected, nuh-uh. Emotions, feeling,
Right.
no.
Yeah.
Nothing like that. He knew angry and he knew happy, but he didn't know compassion, tenderness. So, I don't know what you asked me, but there you go.
No.
But that was a story. I thought it was pretty incredible.
Yeah.
So Dad, he did know how his duty, very dutiful, very
Yeah.
purposeful.
Yeah.
But later on, he did tell me. It was kind of neat. Oh, this was neat. He was sitting on the edge of his bed after he had given me, and every time, Tyler, every time he gave me a rifle or a muzzleloader,
Uh-huh.
he would fall backwards on the bed. He couldn't stand. He was dying. But he stood up to give them to me. Very ceremonial.
Yeah.
He would stand up. He'd hand it to me and say, "This came from my Uncle Ed when I was a kid." I mean, I've got a pump shotgun Winchester 1898 all soldered together, and this came from World War One. And he'd give it to me, and he would fall back, and I wouldn't help him up. I could have, but no. My dad was a man until he took his last breath, and he stood up. It was ceremonial, and he sat on the bed, and he looked into the corner like old people do, like they're reading off a prompter. He
Yeah.
looked up there, and he said this. He said, "I guess my children will have to be my legacy." I had a choice to make then. Was he saying, I guess it's the kids,
Yeah.
because I've done nothing else but have kids? I didn't take it that way. He said, I guess my children will be my legacy. Tyler, I couldn't wait to get back to Franklin, Tennessee, look at my kids and say, hey, out of all the things I've done, out of all the things I may ever do, I want you to know now,
Yeah.
you are my legacy.
Yeah.
You are the greatest. I have changed the world because I had you, I made you, and I've been your counselor. I've changed the world.
Yeah.
Couldn't wait to tell him that. I don't have to wait till I'm on deathbed to say, I guess this is it. No, I told him right now, there's nothing I could do better than being a dad, being a parent. There's nothing. Can you think of anything?
Nope. Not a thing.
I couldn't wait to tell him.
Yeah.
If you haven't told your kids, you tell them, Tyler.
Absolutely.
So that's what a time. Go ahead.
When did you become a dad?
I was 32, and without knowing, I had my oldest son the same age my dad was when he had me.
Wow.
No, and it just hit me. 32 years old, and I'm 55. He's 23. Landon Tom Sawyer Meldrum. It's just Sawyer, but Tom Sawyer. Great kid, and I knew then being a dad. Wow. Then McKenna Joe. I'm going to just tell the world, my daughter is stupid, over the top beautiful, but she will make you laugh. She is funny.
Yeah.
Very intellectually smart in English and literature
Mm-hmm.
and philosophy. She can talk to you and teach you things about stuff. She's great. She's taken 1 year off. Then she's either going to get a doctorate in English or she's going to go to law school. She's great. She
Yeah.
is, and I told her, McKenna is the balance in my life. Always has been. Landon, McKenna. Then I've got Hudson McLean, 15 and a half. One of the biggest lies I ever told my mom. She said, why do you keep naming your kids these odd names? His name is Hudson McLean because I just done Die Hard 2. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Hudson Hawk with Daniel Aiello and Bruce.
Yep.
McLean, he was John McLean.
Yeah.
And she said, why do you do this? And my brothers and sisters knew, and right in front of her and God and everyone, I said, it's MC for McKenna, LA for Landon, and IN for Incredible. And my brothers looked at me and said, you are going to hell. And I probably, knowing me, I'm taking it all with me. And my mom was like, wow, that's nice. Lie. It just got that quick. IN for Incredible. Even my wife was like, you're a sick man. Yeah.
It's amazing how it just rolled off
Just
the tongue
rolls
like that.
off my tongue. That's not the first time a lot of things have come to me.
Oh my gosh.
And people think I'm unfiltered. No, I'm not smart enough to say some of the things I say. But yeah, so I wanted people to know that's where we're going. And this is very important to me. People see the 40,000 foot flyover.
Right.
They see achievements.
Mm-hmm.
But for everything you see that I achieved, I failed.
Right.
Twice.
Yeah.
I've come up short, but I'm just too dumb to stop trying.
Yeah.
But I want anyone that listens to this to know something. This is very important to me. To really know Andy Meldrum, I get a hole the size of Texas that runs right through me.
Mm.
I've got a hole that I've tried to fill. I've tried to fill it with music,
Mm-hmm.
accomplishments, money, accolades, sex. I will say things to bounce them off the wall on other people, to try to convince myself I'm not breathing someone else's air.
Mm.
I could tell the world and any person one at a time how valuable they are. They were born on purpose with a purpose. I could convince them, but I can't get it from my head to my heart. And I've learned this. I struggle with it. It will come to a shock to some people. My default is to kill myself, and has been for a long time. And it's not kill myself like I'm screaming out for someone to save me. I am broken beyond repair. I am hurt beyond healing.
Mm.
I've got scars, and we all do. And things can get hopeless quick. And no matter what I do, Tyler is sitting in a huge house with wonderful kids, a wonderful wife, in a recording studio that really is state of the art. I will record music, not just mine, but for other people so they can pass it down to generation, to tell their story, to share their talents.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I did it. And I know I will do most of this for hardly nothing. And that hole doesn't get smaller, it gets bigger. It doesn't get smaller. I cannot give my way into feeling like I belong.
Mm.
And I don't think I'm alone. I think we have a hole running through us. And I've tried so many things. I haven't tried drugs. I won't. I'm too old now. When I was younger,
Mm-hmm.
maybe you can relate to this. When I would have an accomplishment, the buzz from it would last a while.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, look what I did.
Yeah.
Who's the man? I'm the man. Now I can set the world on fire. And the buzz doesn't even come because I know it's like Christmas night to a child. You've waited for Christmas for so long, it seems like. Christmas morning happens, it's night, and it's like the last day of camp. That's it?
Yeah.
It's December 26th. At least as adults, we have Christmas, Christmas Eve, Christmas. And we know that New Year's Eve is come right up. So our livers will recover and we will hit it again. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the buzz of doing anything, any accomplishment, even today, I try to get thankful. My life is amazing. I'm not sobbing, but I suck. Money doesn't fill the hole. And I just want people to know that. To know me is to know that I wouldn't say I suffer from depression. I think I suffer from reality.
Mm.
I really I've got a hole that runs through me, size of Texas, and I can't fill it with anything. And people will say, "Let Jesus fill that." Great, cool. I love when people say things about God, Jesus, just thinking that there's no comeback. I'm going to solve this for you.
Yeah.
Let Jesus fill it. It's like, oh, really? Great. Pump number 2. Let's fill her up.
Yeah.
It's yeah. So I want people to know that. Anyone that listens to this, if you ever want to talk again, you let me know. I want them to know that I struggle
Mm-hmm.
with that. And I struggle with it. And it comes to me as quick as a blush. Oh, so the panic attacks, how they ended? My dad died.
Yeah.
I was too tired to drive. It's 800 and some miles away. And Yvette said, let's fly. We went and got on a plane. Now, I'm still panic attacked. And so I'm sitting on this plane, breathing pretty deep. Felt like I was going to throw up or crap myself. I was dying. They closed the door. Mm-hmm. Whoa. And I was like, just a big, oh. And Yvette was like, you can do this, Andy. You can do this, Andy. We had to fly up to Minnesota, get on a different plane, fly over to Alpena, Michigan, right? And apparently, everyone knows that my favorite word is dad. This lady was on the back of the plane, and she had a baby, and the baby was in the babbling stage. I'm there just hanging on, and it was dad, dad, dad. Dad, dad, dad. Then they do the real daddy, daddy, dad, dad, like that.
Yeah.
And a tear came down my cheek. My body relaxed. I slumped in the seat. We flew up to Minneapolis, flew over to Alpena, Michigan. I'm the entertainer of the family.
Right.
Make people laugh. I went up there, I'll never forget, and I stole this from a pastor, Jamie George. They expected me to give this stories. I went up there in the microphone. I was the first one to talk. I thanked everyone for coming to this funeral. And I said, on one hand, there's redemption, salvation, Jesus. On the other hand, there's not. On the hand with Jesus, there's hope. And the other hand is hopeless. I says, let's choose hope. Sat my fat ass down. And people were like, that's all you got? They had that look like, huh? And there was a guitar up there. There was, that's it. Got on the plane, flew back to Minnesota. I said, Minnesota?
You did.
Yeah, don't you know you betcha? Get your swampers. And then down to Nashville. I haven't had a panic attack since.
That's amazing.
It's amazing. And people say, what did you do? I didn't do nothing. And I do not. I don't put a lot of stock in heaven. I don't. But if there was ever a time that my dad could go to Jesus or someone and just say, hey, can you please heal? No panic. And so we need to get together again. And we talk about So You Think You Can Hunt and everything I've done
Yeah, we
since.
haven't talked about that.
See, we got deep real quick.
Andy, what scares you?
Not being needed. What scares me? Just Andy not being able to fix everything for my children and not being needed. What scares me are those feelings I have. It's quick as a blush. It's just like, I should end it. I'm worth more completely out of the picture than I am in it. That's frightening. Because then I have to think through the repercussions. Hudson, McKenna, Landon, my wife. People forget how far the ripples go out. I'm a stone in a pond. People would ponder and would be confused and many ripples out.
Yep.
And that kind of pisses me off that for some reason I got so involved with so many people. And that scares me. Hopelessness. What scares you, Tyler?
No. This is your interview. We'll talk
really?
later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I suppose that, yeah.
What do you regret?
Truth? Always. What do I regret? I had an online Facebook affair. Never met physically in person, but I guess it would be an emotional. Yeah. So when I tell you I've tried to fill this hole, and I hurt my wife. Oh, I hurt my wife. You see, one thing you would have to know about me. I don't hurt people.
No.
I'm not here. That's not my mission. That's not what Andy does. I went from the cowboy way and Superman to just a stupid ass idiot. And I hurt my wife. If there's one thing I could take back, that's it. Facebook is really neat, but I did learn after that, you look at divorces and you're going to see the big FB right there in the middle of the whole crap match. I've got a hole the size of Texas. Tried to fill it with so much, and I thought I could fill it with a stupid relationship filled with accolades of someone that truly doesn't know me, of someone that did not invest wholeheartedly through thick, through thin. And I fell off the pedestal and I hurt my wife. You know, I think we've all shortchanged people. We've all hurt people. No, you don't. I don't hurt my wife. But I did. I was stupid. That's the regret.
Who is God?
Who is God? I used to think he was a big prick, arrogant ass. There's been times in my life I sold out for him and he didn't protect me. And we fought. And some people would say, oh, that's horrible you didn't. Nah. My God better be big enough to take me, or at least let me beat the living Jenny out of him with the club. He better be. He's got to be. Then after I softened, I needed that. It was years. Just angry. God is this, I'm going to say in a man, woman's form, is this. A child comes up to you and they say, Mr. Tyler, come over here. Let me show you something. You go over. And he pulls a cord and the shades open up. He pulls the other one. The shades come down. He turns this and they open. You know, the flaps do. Mm-hmm. He turns it the way and they close. Instead of this big, what I thought arrogant idiot God was, he gets down on a knee. He says, slow down. Show me again. He knows what it's all about.
Right.
But he's meeting this child, this person, this entity. He's meeting them where they're at. Mm. That is the love, the no shame. When Jesus wept, he didn't run from spot to spot. Very deliberate. He got there. And if truly he's the Alpha and the Omega, he was there when we were designed, and we were designed never to die. And when he feels the pain, when you go to a funeral, a lot of times you may love the person who's died, mm-hmm. but what really gets you is the family, the spouse, the kids weeping, and the Spirit in you, because we have God in Christ in us. Mm-hmm. The Spirit in you is the closest thing to Jesus and God there is. And it was there at the beginning, and it realizes death was never supposed to happen. And they feel the sting, so you feel the sting, and tears come. I always expected God to protect me because I was his warrior. I was his champion. Mm-hmm. Pretty arrogant, but very honest. And things happened. He did not protect me. And I'm not enough to protect everything, everywhere. But it all belongs and it's seasoned to me. There are days I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie. I sometimes I'm like, there is no God. And I'm not going to bank on it one way or another. I live in the rhythm of the Spirit. which can look really weird to people watching. If you watch me like a movie, you're like, why the hell is he doing that? Why did he go that way? Why did he stop and talk to that person? Because I'm supposed to.
Right.
I'm here to serve and love people. Period. If there is a heaven, if there is truly a God and a Jesus, great. And they're looking at, he's looking down at Tyler and Andy having perfect worship.
Mm.
And any parent will know there's nothing like, unless you can disagree, hearing your kids in the other room in fellowship, laughing, crying, talking over something important.
Yep.
That's when the dad in me goes, we got food almost in the fridge, gas in the tank, and almost paid our bills on time or whatever. But listen, look it. I believe God does the same. But I'll be honest. If there is no God, there is no Jesus, if there is no heaven, I'm fine with that. I will love and I will serve. And I'm going to sooner or later stop trying to fill this hole. Just going to stop. Does that kind of... Yeah. Okay.
Fantastic. You made me cry.
Really? Was it...
Andy's story is as real and as raw as they can possibly come. I don't know too many people that would answer some of the questions as directly and honestly as he did. Hopefully you heard in there some of what I love about this man. His heart, his honesty is just second to none. If you'd like to see a portrait of Andy, you can go to our website, butenoughAbout.me. That's www.butenoughAbout.me. We've got all of the portraits there, as well as other episodes and ways that you can connect and reach out to us. If you liked this, please go leave a review on iTunes. You can follow us on Instagram or Facebook. Both of those are /ButEnoughAboutMePodcast. So facebook.com/ButEnoughAboutMePodcast or Instagram.com/ButEnoughAboutMePodcast. And I do post things on there pretty regularly. If you do follow us on Facebook, then you probably saw this last week the insanity that was a silly video I made with my wife about my teenage son losing his back-to-school clothes in the back of somebody else's vehicle. That video went viral, and it got pretty big and pretty out of hand and was an odd experience, but there's a happy ending to it all. You can see all of that over on our Facebook page as well, facebook.com/ButEnoughAboutMePodcast. You have an assignment in the next 2 weeks. Go find somebody, buy them a cup of coffee or a glass of whiskey, and ask them to tell you their story. A big thank you to the folks that helped make this happen. Mr. Jace Hackman for the intro music and all of the music in between. You can hear more from him at jacehackman.com. Thank you to Casey Jones for the help with the logo. You can see his work at iamcaseyjones.com, or you can find both of them on our website, butenaughabout.me. I can't wait to catch up with you guys again in a couple of weeks. But for now, my name is Tyler Andrews, but enough about me.